Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's start. So yeah, I mean, I know Brian since a couple of years now, and we've met again. So you can see us without drinks. It was after, but we've met again like a couple of months ago, and we were asking ourselves, maybe we should work again together and see where we are working on each of us. So the context is like it was like what, Brian, like 4 years, 5 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, Brian had this crazy project, the write a book, and called Cycles. And if you don't know it, I really ask you to go for it. And I was very, very humbled to do my part and participate to one chapter into the book. So the power of clarity. And so I was asking Brian, I mean, what are you doing now? I mean, what's going on with the book? And I've discovered that Brian was really, really into innovation sprints, and he was really experimenting a lot with AI. And on my side, I was, as you may have understood, I mean, I was very much to brand building, brand and communication, and so on. And I was using AI, but I was really spending too much time on it and maybe not in a very accurate way. So the question um, from Brian, so yeah, just a few words about me. So yeah, I'm a brand communication and innovation strategist. I work for big companies like Toyota, Lego, L'Oreal, and so on. My background is really from creative agencies, but now I have my little boutique consultancy, and yeah, a part of Cycles that I co-wrote with Brian. I did participate to some other projects like on the Love Marks, and I've been working with IDEO, if you know them, a design thinking company in California, in San Francisco. And I'm really specialized now into challenger brands. I mean, challenger mindset brands. Yeah, I love to work for, brands that are trying to do more with less. If I'm very honest, like how to be appealing, attractive, but unfortunately with less resources. So this is really what I like to do.
So, so the overlap that came up between Frank and I was a lot of talk about, how do we work for middle-sized companies? How do we deliver real exceptional value? What can we do together? Frank's focus on branding, my focus on running sprints. Hence the idea, could we run a AI-enabled sprint focused on branding? Who am I? I'm a serial entrepreneur. A lot of people use that term, but I've actually done it. I've done 11 companies in 6 different countries. I've had 8 exits. I have 2 failures along the way and one which is unknown up until now. I work for top universities. I've taught at Stanford, I've taught at Berkeley, London Business School, EdHec. I've worked with some of the largest accelerators. I was director of the Founders Institute and in charge of the mentoring at the European Innovation Academy. And right now, I'm doing a lot of work teaching. It was about 10 years ago, somebody asked me if I'd like to teach. And I said, who wants to teach? I mean, seriously. Um, and actually, I get a big kick out of it. I really enjoy it. I have fun with it. The book that I wrote with Frank was sort of a labor of love. It was actually, how could I write a book that I would like to have in my courses? And I had this brilliant idea to work with a bunch of co-authors, 23 co-authors. I figured, fantastic. It'll be done in a couple of weeks. And it took 2 years to finish the book.
Yeah.
Um, my personal mission right now is to coach, train 1 million innovators by 2027. A big part of that is AI based. AI is the way that I see it's possible to scale. And my favorite people to work with are middle-sized companies. And I've actually moved away from teaching the fortunate few to teaching a lot more of the motivated many. There's a black thing that just popped up on my screen. I don't know if that's from one of you.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so as Brian said, I'm from the branding background. And as you know, the branding process can be really long, really challenging. It can take years. I mean, when I remember some work I've done for with Procter and Gamble or Toyota, it was taking years, and it was a lot of processes, a lot of information to go through. So what I've done lately, like at the beginning of the year, is to create a 5 week program that was kind of, like trying to nail what was important in a limited time, but still a lot of people were finding that too long. So I was okay, what should I do with that? I mean, how do I progress there?
So personally, having worked at P&G for a while, a 5 week program for branding is really exceptional because, in fact, it took us 5 months to write a new selling line. 5 months to say nothing washes whiter than Dash. Okay, that's but the question that comes up is in today's world, everyone wants to go faster, better, quicker. And the question I posed to Frank is, could you make your branding process a lot faster, a lot better using two tools? One is a sprint framework, and one is artificial intelligence. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about those things.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of a sprint focuses a lot on the idea of choosing the right activities. And
Yeah.
what are the activities?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, the important things is really to align people from the beginning. So I I mean, I know a brief is really important, but some people were yeah, like, we don't know what we want, we have to research together, but aligning people is very important. Then it's all about finding a narrative that everybody can embrace inside the company. And then from there, we enter this kind of difficult task of uh, structuring the brand platform, how the brand is organized, is structured, just to make sure that everybody can have the same direction, the same North Star, as we may say. So, and then obviously, because people are reacting very much into visuals or into words, creative guidance was for me also very important to have. So what I've done is, yeah, so sprints are obviously, like Brian said, a powerful way to focus on what is really necessary, what is really essential right now, and get the right people involved, to have the right people in place from the beginning.
So, one of the things that came up, and what I would love to do is take you back to the discussions in the cafe. Beer
Mhm.
number one, it's impossible. Beer number two, maybe it can work. Beer number three, we got a plan. Beer number four, okay, look, we can do it. Um, and actually, one of the things we looked at is, could you take your 5 week program, squish it down to 5 days? And even if you can get it in 5 days, there's lots of questions that come up about how you might do this more effectively. So what we typically, a sprint is run over 5 days. um, the sprint idea comes from a guy named Jake Knapp. There's lots of different flavors and things like that, but essentially what we're looking at, day one is about understanding, defining the challenge. Day two is about creating solutions. Day four is about deciding. Day five, prototyping and testing and bringing it all together.
Mhm.
Now, this is really effective for a lot of companies because of a couple of reasons. One is you get people to focus for a period of time. I mean, the reality that comes up is it's really hard to get your thoughts focused on one thing. Secondly, is you're able to generate a lot of ideas when you get people together. And third, it's about bringing people together and sort of breaking down those silos and how things work together. For me, I've run close to 100 sprints, and those sprints are really cool because they deliver results. But there's a series of issues that come up when you run sprints. First, and probably foremost, is the sprints are run to solve the wrong challenge. If you have the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. The second thing that comes up is there's sort of a hit or miss on alignment because people come together and there isn't enough time focused on defining exactly what the group is going to do. The sketching part of a sprint is something nobody uses anymore, but the idea of idea building in one day, actually, it's a good idea. But because of the time constraints, we tend to stick around with pretty obvious ideas. They're out of the box ideas don't come in. On day 3, we're talking about getting real feedback from customers. One of the problems that comes up is a lot of companies actually don't go get the feedback, but actually make the decisions internally. So they end up with a selection bias. For me, the biggest challenge in a sprint, and everybody that's here knows this, where do you get your biggest ideas? It's not when you're full on, but when you take a little bit of time off. So there's no time in this process to let the ideas soak and improve and get better. And we'll talk about why that's important in a bit. In 5 days, you tend to have low fidelity ideas. You have weak action plans. And even though it's 5 days instead of 5 weeks, people still complain about the process. So what we've done is we've created a toolkit that guides people through the sprint process. Now, the labels of our book are different. I like our labels better because it talks about the ABCs of innovation, so people can tend to remember it. But essentially, it's the same thing as a sprint. You figure out what you want to do, alignment, you build ideas. 3, you communicate those ideas, you check them, and you systematically improve them. We have a total of 259 tools and 6 apps to guide people through the process. They were originally developed in my courses, but actually we're using now with a lot of effect with companies. And what happens is we can throw these tools into the process and try to fix some of those issues with the sprint. We bring AI in to do market assessment, persona development, defining your objectives. We use AI to do problem framing and stimulus mining. We do AI to do mechanical creativity, and you're going to see some results in a bit. You might not believe them. I didn't believe them. But actually, AI is building much better ideas than human beings with the right prompts. We do use AI to focus on clarity, synthetic user testing. We use AI to do high fidelity MVPs, and we use AI to help push the process forward, looking at business model design, pitch building, and pitch review. Now, there is an important change that happens, and that is because we use these tools, we can actually squish things down. So we go from 5 days down to 2 days. And those 2 days are essentially the whole original sprint. We add in a part, and this is the part which is probably the biggest difference, is when you have time to think about what you're doing, time away from the sprint, you can come back and generate better ideas. And we added in a half day at the end, which is about deciding and testing. So the question I came back to Frank, I said, look, we got this 2.5 day process. How would you put your 5 weeks or 5 months in a 2.5 day process?
Yeah. I mean, obviously from the beginning, I had a lot of doubts, a lot of points that I wanted to cover. So obviously when we work on brands, there is a lot of prep work, a lot of material to prepare, a lot of research, a lot of interviews, a lot of experts involved. We want to have a look to the competition. You want to make sure you have all the cultural trends in hands, etc. So that was my first really focus. And then obviously something I never really achieved is to have more feedback along the process. So to have, more people talking about how does it feel? Is it interesting? Are we hitting something important for you, etc. So that was really something important, and also because brands are tapping into emotions. I was really focused on how AI can really bring that emotional vibe into the process. That was super important for me. Then obviously because brands are not only strategies, but brands, they have to go out there. They have to, they have to touch the people. So it's about how do we mix this blend of strategy and implementation all together, and obviously not only satisfying the brand owners, but also the consumers. So it was not about having more and more and more. It was having one great idea that everybody loves, that everybody buys in. So yeah, I mean, very, very quickly, because we have a lot to show you after. So it's like, for me, ideally, the 2.5 days, as I said, preparation was super important. What is super complicated is like all the logistics, but that, we're gonna put that side away. But like, so many people involved, how do we organize everything? And obviously it was about all the stimulus that we can gather about the market, about the people, about the consumers, and about the trends, and also to really understand what framework we want to work in. So that would be really like, at least it was 3 to 4 weeks of preparation. Then in the first day, the alignment is super important, right? The alignment, it's about agreeing on what are we trying to tap into, right? I mean, agree on the consumers, agree on the knowledge of the market, understanding, aligning people about what do we know, what do we want to do, etc., and also projecting the objectives. Then building. I mean, I'm very much into storytelling. So how do we create the narrative? How do we split the groups and present and understand what great story we want to say for the people, and starting to check that with ideas, yeah. But then when you have so many ideas, how do you merge that? This is also very important. The second day altogether, it's about communication. So it's really about improving solutions, gathering feedback. So that was super important, but something quite difficult to do. And then really come out with a narrative structure for the last piece, which is about deciding. Deciding is very, very important because it's all about building the brand strategy, deciding. I mean, the decisions are very tough, right? Because there is all those questions. So it's really about what do we want to achieve, how do we want to do that, etc. The soaking time, something that was pretty new to me. It's about connecting the dots, making sure that we are rechecking a couple of things all together, etc., and make it real. Yeah, the last piece was obviously about having the final presentation. And for that, it's about reassessing with the group of people, our assumptions, the direction, the big aim we want to solve, and then to decide about how we want to move on. So that is really impossible. I mean, for me, it was impossible in just a couple of days.
So, I mean, the thing that we talked about here is you said, look, okay, this is possible, but I mean, you'd have to go really fast. I mean, could AI help you along the way? And I mean, your point of view wasn't very positive on AI.
No, yeah. Yeah, it was not. It was not. I mean, I think like most of the people. I don't know. Maybe you can comment in the chat. But I was using AI just to edit text or just a bit of content here, etc. But I was not thinking that AI could really help me to come with great ideas and to help me to in the process, for sure.
So, one of the things we talked about and saying, well, actually, you know what? AI doesn't solve every problem, but AI can be used to do lots of things. But what you have to do is you have to understand the context of what's good and bad. I talked to Frank. I said, look, there's some research out there. The first and probably most important thing in the research is showing where AI is having the biggest impact. AI is not having the biggest impact on the places you'd think it would. And when we're talking about AI here, we're talking about generative AI. There's lots of forms and flavors of AI. But the place where it's having the biggest impact is in the creative sectors. There was a great study that was done by Harvard Business School and Boston Consulting, where they gave people creative tasks. And they had those people working on challenging creative problems that they needed to come up with. And they had their consultants work with AI and without AI. And what you saw is they took the bottom half of their consulting group and they saw, in fact, that group got 40% more effective. The top half of the group got 17% more effective. Now, those might not look like big numbers, but even the top group, that's a day a week better in terms of what they're doing. But the biggest thing that came up here, and that is, for me, my pen works here. Let's see if it does, is the distance between those two. So in fact, what AI does is it brings everybody up to the same level of creativity. In that same study, they did something which I thought was really clever. And they had some bunch of people that they trained on the use of AI, told them how fantastic it was, told them how to use it. And they gave them a problem that they knew was outside the knowledge zone of AI. And they gave the same group to people not using AI. The people that weren't using AI got the problem right 85% of the time, 15% wrong. But the group that was trained to use AI the most actually ended up with getting things wrong 3 times more often. Now, the reason this is important is when you're getting advice back from AI, even if it gives you the wrong answer, it's really good at convincing you the wrong answer is right. Now, when we talk about this, there's a series of myths about AI. AI is great for content. The reality is it's not. AI is great on its own. No, actually, AI needs to be focused with constraints, domain expertise. AI is faster. There's a recent study that was done in France showing that 77% of people using AI believe it actually makes them slower in what they do in their work. So if you don't use it right, it just gives you an information overload. The trick that you have in the creative sector is to try and use AI differently. If you ask AI just to give you ideas, what it will do is it would give you back the most obvious ideas. And, for example, if I say, look, give me a random number between 0 and 100, the most common answer used to be the answer, number 42, and it would give you the answer 15% of the time. Not because it's the right answer, but because it's what people like to see. By the way, 42 was in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where was the answer to everything. What you need to do is you need to break the pattern of giving obvious replies. The way that you do that, first and foremost, is to give AI a context, make it think differently. Secondly, give it a way to work and give it a specific task that you want it to do. And we'll come to that in just a second. The second way to make AI more effective is to give it an example. And the third, which is one step that a lot of people don't use, it's something about chain of thought, where you give AI a series of action steps to go through a process. What we're going to do is I'm going to present you some results showing you how good AI is. You might or might not believe it, but the paper will be published soon. And then we're going to show you how you use those tools within a real live context. So the context here is there was a study that was run by somebody, Ethan Mullick, who's quite famous right now, about the use of AI to create ideas. They had a test, which was to create ideas for a product targeting college students in the US. They had students try, they had AI try. What they found out wasn't much difference. But the tools that they used, the way that they ran the tests was rather limited. They didn't, in my opinion, use what I would call smart AI. They didn't define the objectives, and they didn't use ideation tools effectively. So we decided to rerun the test. We had 260 business school students applying for an internship. We split them into different groups. One group worked by himself. One group worked with AI. Another group got a clear definition of a target and AI. And the last group got a clear definition of a target and smart AI tools. Now, when I talk about smart AI tools, we're not talking about rocket science here. It's just having enough domain expertise to point yourself in the right direction. And in fact, the best creative tool we had was we set up the context, we set up the action, we set up the result, but the prompt was really short. Please generate 80 ideas for this challenge based on the TRIZ inventive principles. Okay. So we have an automated system generating ideas. If you get a copy of this presentation, you'll get the link. Basically, you go to the site, you select a method, add a target, click a few buttons, and what pops out is a bunch of ideas on the other side. And the ideas go longer and longer and longer. Now, what's interesting is we can generate a lot of ideas fast. To give you an idea for this test, personally, I didn't think there was 5,402 different ways that you could provide us an idea for a product for university students. But we did have 5,402 ideas. We had 280 from humans without any use of AI, 460 from humans using ChatGPT, and 4,662 from all this stuff together. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I'm just going to tell you the top line results. The top line result is when we evaluate the quality of ideas, we evaluate on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 is perfect, 0 is horrible. Human beings were the worst performing by themselves. But in fact, the differences between human beings and human beings plus AI in terms of average quality of ideas is not very different. From an academic point of view, there's a difference, but from a practical point of view, average results are all the same. When you look at ideas, there's a second element of ideas, which is the degree to which ideas are diverse and different. You can measure that with something called cosine similarity. Cosine similarity of 0 means all the ideas are completely different, and 1 would mean they're all the same. What we see here, human beings win. So human beings are better at developing diverse ideas than AI. But I mean, for me, it's logical. If AI is giving you the most logical response to a question, of course, the ideas are going to be less distinctive. We continued this study looking at, for me, what I think is the most important question. Nobody cares about the quality of your ideas on average. All they really care about is, do you develop good ideas? Do you develop great ideas? Do you want 5,000 ideas? And the answer is no. So what we did is we analyzed in these groups the number of top ideas, ideas that scored in the top 5%. And what you see here is a dramatically different story. Human beings working by themselves generated approximately 1 idea per 100 on average. Human beings with AI and no training got better. Human beings working with AI, but given an idea on how to formulate a challenge, got about twice as good. And human beings using AI in a clever way got somewhere between 5 and 8 times better. Now, it's really important, if you want to understand these numbers. What we're not talking about is the number of ideas generated. What we're talking about is the frequency of top ideas. It's obvious that you can build lots of ideas with AI. But actually what we're doing is per 100 ideas with AI, it has 8 top ideas. The human being per 100 ideas has 1. So what we see is there's not a question in the future about whether it's humans or AI alone. Neither one is a clear winner in the process. There is going to be a process of humans and AI working together. What you're going to do is you're going to get better results, but if you don't use it in a smart way, you make lots of mistakes. The clever way to use AI is to use smart AI, which is to use predefined tools, knowledge on how to use the tools, and knowledge how to interact. That allows us to do things like run a 5-day sprint in 2 days with 2 to 3 times more top ideas. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go through an example and show you what we do in a sprint. So step by step. So if you want, you can go to this link. It's AI for Innovation. You'll have to do a screenshot if you want to type this in. You get an open access to 259 tools. We're going to show you 8. What we wanted to do is we wanted to do a practical challenge. I just told you we started, finishing up these slides. We actually worked on this 2 days ago in a context of a Brazilian context. And we were working on ideas for a new type of mixed beverage drink. In Brazil, people drink, but ready-made mixed drinks have failed again and again and again. The person I was working with works with Pepsi, said, look, if your AI is so good, show me how we could generate ideas with this, and actually went through and did a 30-minute sprint session together. If you want to get the things that we're going to show you, you can take this link, which is you'll get later if you want. And basically you can go through and you can get how the process we ran, and you can update it and put your own challenge in. So basically you go to the document, make a copy, you fill in your true north. The true north is your innovation challenge. You copy some prompts step by step, and you will do everything that you see in the following bit. And if you want to just see the output, you can get it there. So this is what our sprint looks like. Prepare ideas, align, build, extend, test, soak, make it real. We're going to simplify it and make it straight across the board. So the prep phase, how do we use AI? A good rule of thumb for me in the past working with clients is for every hour I spent with a client, I needed to spend 1 day working outside the office. In a sprint, whether it's a branding sprint or another type of sprint, this is the most important thing that you're going to do. What we have is a series of tools. The tools for branding are not fantastic, but one is about market understanding. You run this. It runs a total of 30 prompts around an individual marketplace. It'll generate about 150 pages of output. It gives you a good idea what the market is about, but for branding, probably not most important. A better solution is to use something like Perplexity. And Perplexity, you can ask a series of questions. Say, I'm investigating the launch of a pre-made alcoholic drink in Brazil like Coca-Cola plus whiskey. What are the key issues I need to be aware of? And basically what it'll do is give you answers to those questions. It'll give you references, give you places to go, so on and so forth. And you can take all that information and download it in a PDF. What we have here is we use that information and a bit of AI to try to define an innovation challenge. An innovation challenge is quite simply something you want to do with a restriction. I want to drive faster and I want to be safer. I want my wife to be happier and I want to spend less money on her. These are things that are not necessarily easy to do together. In this context, we've got a format, which is called True North. It's a simple summary. It's a story. It's an objective. It's restrictions. It's tactical constraints, and it's giving ideas of places to start. This looks obvious, but in fact, what you'll find is it's really hard to get your team aligned on this. But when you have the market data there, you get things started. And what we do is we throw all this in to a GPT. This takes This takes about a half hour to do. We add up our objectives, we add the market information, and now we have a personalized large language model able to deal with our specific questions. Question, can anybody define what a GPT is? Frank, what's a GPT?
I'm not even sure. I'm afraid to say something stupid.
So in Gemini, it's called a project. In ChatGPT, it's called a GPT.
Mhm.
What it is, it's a place that you can put specific instructions and you can put market information to work on a challenge. We make this as a tool that can be used in an innovation sprint. We then continue. Okay, we're doing pretty well. We have to figure out what we want to do. The first day of our sprint together, we do something called an alignment demo, which we present all that stuff that we found and people talk about it. What do we learn? What are the questions to consider? What are the challenges we want to work on? And we use that to define an updated version of our true north, which is the objective that we're going to work on during the sprint. What we have is a kind of an ugly tool, but the ugly tool allows you to fill in the true north. And then on the other side, in the yellow bit, you get feedback on how clear your ideas are, and you can get ideas on how you improve your objectives. All right, right now, simple, easy. By the way, this is the most important part of the project. Wrong question, wrong answers. Once you have those ideas, those objectives in place, you can do something which is we'll call mechanical creativity. We have a total of 58 prompts that we run to generate ideas. You give me an objective, I give you a way to look at that question, and I generate ideas. What we'll generate in this case is somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 ideas. Now, where this is valuable within your group is you've all been to a brainstorming and say, oh, let's all be creative here. The hard thing is to get the first Post-it note up on the wall. Here you've got 1,000 Post-it notes, but you got a problem. What do you do with 1,000 ideas? What would you do? So what we've got, and you'll find this in the template that we've done. And by the way, when you get a copy of these slides, you'll actually see the actual prompt that's run. So we said, please review the ideas just generated. Please pick the 3 ideas out of the 500 ideas or 200 ideas most likely to deliver on the objectives and constraints defined in our innovation challenge. By the way, you're really nice. You can merge the ideas and put things together to make something better than before, which it typically does. And please provide me a 100-word summary of the idea and why you selected it. Pretty cool. We have this now. We have a few ideas. You as a human being have to go see if this makes any sense. Next step is we've ended the first day. We got a series of ideas. Everybody's done things differently, and everybody has different things that they think are good. The next morning starts with people getting together and presenting the stuff that they think is cool. What's important here is it's what human beings think is cool. It's not what AI thinks is cool. You talk about it as human beings, you get feedback, you look at ways to make it better. You make some sort of decisions that this is going to be our focus. We then have a series of AI tools which actually allow you to clarify and focus. We have more than 30 prompts to improve the quality of your idea. We have a series of 20 main name-making prompts, which will generate around 500 ideas for names. And we have the most cool thing, I think, in the world, because this is something I've done in my life, is we have an input, which is an iconic selling line. Dashes, washes whiter than white. And actually, it takes your benefit and it puts it into this format. And by the way, it can translate it into any language you want. We then have a paper prototype. A paper prototype is actually the chapter I wrote with Frank. which is 4 Ps: your problem, your promise, your proof, your payoff. This is the thing that we're focusing on. What we have here is we've come up with an idea, which is Carnavalia, which is an idea for a flavored drink, which solves the need for, it's about solving the need for women in Brazil to have a little time off every day, to have that special moment. And what we're doing is we're providing a special break. And the reason why it works is we take healthy flavors, we take quality ideas, we bring it all together, and we make a fantastic product that you can share. We then have a period of check. And I'm sorry, I should have presented more of the idea that came out, because it actually is pretty good, but you'll see it at the end. We go through check. We have a prompt. And you remember I talked about chain of thought? You ask AI to do several things at once and improve as you go along. So our prompt here is pretty long. Please create 10 synthetic users. Please have each of these synthetic users evaluate the idea that we're looking at. Please summarize the results. And based on this feedback, update our challenge. So we have synthetic users which are there. We have feedback from all the synthetic users. We have a summary of the feedback. And this is quite cool, because based on that information, we can actually go through and say, look, our concept was good, but these are ways that we can improve it. So it takes the original problem. For example, traditional alcoholic beverages are often unhealthy and lack diversity of flavors, making it difficult for health-conscious consumers to find enjoyable options. We might change that to saying traditional alcoholic beverages are unhealthy and lack diversity in flavors, and they do not, well, actually those two are pretty similar. But what we're looking at is each of the steps along the way. We have a concept, we have a way of improving it. We also can ask, why did you make this suggestion? Human beings review it. We're at the end of the morning of day 2. We have in the afternoon systematically improve. We like the idea that you came up with, but we want to be aware of what are the risks that are there. Please identify the top 10 risks, pick 3 that we want to focus on. We'd like to split into groups and work on this. So it identifies the top risks, the risks to work on, tells you who should be in each group, puts it all together. I mean, to a certain extent, what you're looking at is not, AI is not doing the work, but it's doing the grunt work along the way. This process of running these prompts actually takes about 30 minutes. Really download the template, try it on your own. We're making a video which will play in approximately 1.5 minutes that takes you through the whole thing, and you'll see it's not that hard. Now you're at a point where you actually have to go forward. At the end of the day 2, you have a series of ideas. You want to go forward. You have to take a little bit of time off. I remember as a kid, this used to be up in my grandmother's kitchen. So the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. It's true within idea development, and true in life. I'm only finding it later in life. You need time for ideas to soak. You need time for ideas to grow. You also need to get feedback. We developed a way for AI to help you make a human testing guide based on the book called The Mom Test, which I think is a fantastic book. If anybody wants to read a great book on consumer research, this is better than the long tomes that are behind me here. You get ideas, you get ways to improve it, you get ways to get feedback. We then have a tool which allows you to make a pitch. A pitch, which is a long pitch, is easy to prepare. A short pitch is hard to prepare. We have you fill in some details. What's your introduction? What's your concept? What is the call to action? We then have a way for people to take that pitch and review it. It goes through and reviews the whole process. And now you've got something which should be okay. All right, so we've gone through the process, figure out what we want to do, built some ideas, communicated those ideas, seeing if they're any good, improving those ideas. You're coming up with management. What's the first thing management wants to do? They want to see a visual. So we have a visual, we talk about it. And the last day, the half day, is actually split into 3 parts. First one, we make a presentation to colleagues, your friendly people. They give you feedback. You've got about an hour to go update things. You come back, management walks into the room, you present to management, and you see what comes out. They make some decisions. We have some tools to help you along the way. In this whole process, what are the results? It's 2 to 3 times more results in half the time. Why? Because there's more time for thinking about strategy, ideas, and idea assessment. You get more ideas. You get more testing, more validation. You get better quality ideas, and everything is focused at the end on making choices. The role of AI in the sprint is not to do the work for you. It's to support humans doing the work. We showed you 8 of 259 tools. How does it work in practice? Well, you can go here, you can try it all out, you can run it. We have an open access solution. It works about 90% of the time. So buyer beware, you go there. If it doesn't work, come back and tell us. When we run the sprints, we use proprietary tools and we customize all the tools. As we talked about earlier, sprints are a powerful tool, but you really don't need us. They're incredibly well documented, how you run a sprint. But what we do is help you run the process easier, faster, better. If you work with us, what do you get? Expertise. Expertise running a sprint, expertise using AI, expertise making it happen. And I don't know if you believe it or not, I think we're kind of fun, which makes it more fun to run a sprint with us than running with your boring colleagues. What else? We do training. We do 2-hour sprints, day-and-a-half sprints, and 2.5-day sprints, a la carte solutions. The slides for this talk, actually, we just finished it. You do have a link, but I can tell you, if you take, Frank, can you copy that link in? So we're looking for feedback. If you go to this link and you provide us some feedback, we'll send you a bunch of free stuff. We will send you all the prompts. We'll send you the output of ChatGPT. You get a copy of my book. I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage, but I do think it's a good book. And we also learn a little bit about how this is coming across. So what you have right now, and you'll get this after the presentation, is you'll get a download link now, which is the GPT we developed for the Brazilian beverage market, the demo that you can run. You'll get the webinar slides, and you'll get a link that you can meet with us. If you give us some feedback, you'll get a big selection of articles, books, videos on how to run a design sprint. You'll get a copy of my book. You'll get all the output, the prompts and things like that. And you'll get a copy of the video. And that was it. So we did finish on time. So 6 minutes to go.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of this? John, do you believe it?
I think you've presented some really compelling arguments in terms of approaches and structure. So, while you all were talking, I might have been fooling around with ChatGPT just a little bit, and here you go. So
it works.
You were asking about cocktails in Carnival. There you go.
Sarah, what do you think?
Right, I'm not your target audience for this. I quickly realised, but it was so interesting. I carried on with the call. I'm self-employed. I'm an executive coach. I thought it'd give me a bit of clue on, how to do branding. But in a previous life, I used to work for HSBC, doing marketing and distribution. And somewhere like that, I can see the benefits when, you're looking at retail banking products, investment banking products, website stuff. And I can, sorry, please go ahead.
Challenge for yourself. You're
Mm.
a consultant. Why don't you try out and on your own sprint, follow these things and focus on your branding. Look at your,
Yeah.
and actually, I think you'd be really surprised how much the AI can help you solve some of your challenges. What you need to do is start with a clear challenge at the beginning. If you don't have a clear challenge, then it's hard for the AI to help you.
Absolutely. I kind of have I've got a bit stuck with my own branding's horrible and non-existent. I was running so hard to get away from being a marketing director that I just didn't want to do any branding or any marketing. I don't know if anybody's ever changed careers, but absolutely. I think it's inspired me. I took careful notes as you were talking, both of you. I really like the prompts. I like the constraints. So it's the old, garbage in, garbage out model, isn't it? Completely. The more you can teach it about what tone of voice, who what's it for. I like the be the comedian kind of, all of that. You see so much nonsense that people have obviously just got a bit excited about GPT. And I like the output. I really like the way that this is how I would have approached something in the past, and looked at things in terms of, real breakdown in terms of consumer types. I love it. I'm quite inspired. It's not my world anymore.
So
I'm gonna have a micro dabble for sure.
So if we were talking, Frank and I were talking before this, if we did a live session where we actually put the prompts in and you did it on your side and we did it on our side and you saw the output, would that be interesting for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a geek. I love all this stuff. And AI, it's moving so fast, isn't it? It's hard for people who are not in it full time to keep up.
I think, for me, the things that came out is I actually didn't believe AI could be creative. And I'm a creativity expert. And I said, okay, look, of course I'm more creative. But you have to realize almost all the ideas that we have are recombinations of ideas.
Yeah, sure.
And if it's recombinations of ideas and you're just figuring out different ways to mix and match, AI can mix and match a heck of a lot faster than any of us can. And the other thing that, in terms of human feedback, I was really reluctant to use synthetic users. And I still don't believe that they're perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But they actually give you really good feedback really fast. You have a presentation tomorrow at 8 a.m, at 2 a.m, the AI can be telling you, is your presentation good? Is it clear? Is it, is it on track? I think there's really good stuff here. So I would really like it if you followed up with some sort of feedback. Frank, did you put in this link here, the branding feedback link?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So what I'd like to do is end with one question. And I'd like somebody to come up with a really difficult question, and Frank will answer your question. Arusha, you're a smart girl. I'm scared for Frank now. Go ahead with your question.
No, actually, it's not a difficult question. It was a lovely presentation. Honestly, because I work with AI and everything. So I sort of have a different opinion on just an opinion I would like to discuss with everyone here, actually. So here, basically the idea that I got was that how AI can also be, as you just said, that, you come from a creative background and then you never thought that AI could produce creative ideas, and now you think that it can. Personally, to me, what I really believe is that AI still is more of an assistive feature, where I know a lot of companies, say in construction companies now, where they're using AI to go through 10,000 of these contractual documents to make sure that everything is going right. I come from the finance background. So in finance also, now we're just using that once the pitch is ready by the analyst, it's more of an AI going through it to make sure that whatever the client wanted, it's there in it. So so far, I have not used AI on the creative side or the idea generation side. So do you really think that in traditional industries such as construction or finance or even wholesale or retail, you think that AI can come in and like possibly replace a human?
Mm.
You have to answer the question, Frank. It's your job.
Yeah, I mean, no, it will not replace people. It will just make them faster and more accurate. So coming back to the creative side, because this is totally where I come from. My first question to Brian was like, I don't believe AI can be creative, because creativity is this kind of a secret sauce that, I mean, you can't systemize it in a way, right? But yeah, but it's right to say that even when we create, and for example, I was advertising and stuff like that, you are using combinations. Your brain is using combinations of stuff, right? So I believe that AI is not going to be creative. It's just going to make you more creative, something like that. So when you talk about your background with construction, and as I'm not really aware of how you use the tools, but I think it's a great way to cover all the gaps, to cover all the ideas, and to really, really focus on what is important for you, right? So I think my second fear was like the number of ideas. Sometimes you just say, oh yeah, let's go there. But that was a bit my problem for many years. And I was with clients. I was like, okay, let's create something. So you have a methodology, and then we have one idea or two ideas, and you have to choose from them. And you say, what if those ideas are not the right ones? I mean, you would like to have more time to check, but when you do it by yourself, you need weeks, you need months to double check and coming back to it, and AI can really do it faster for you. I think it's really great. Yeah.
To give you an example, Arusha, I mean, I think creativity in its bold sense, like writing a new selling line for Nike, I don't think AI is there.
Yeah.
I'm doing a workshop tomorrow for designing new types of interiors for packaging material to replace aluminum so it can be recycled better. AI is fabulous for this because it can look at all the technical limitations. It can come up with all the permutations. It can come up with 800 different ideas and sort of sort it down faster than any human being can. So I think you have to, it's horses for courses. John, you get ask the last question.
Well, actually, I was just going to simply agree with Frank's. It helps you be more creative. Is that I've done. My wife will tell you I've done a way too deep dive into making custom GPTs, and I actually designed one for her. She's a printmaker, and she's a art faculty member that makes iterations of variations of prints. Now it's not the print, but it's, hey, let's play with color, let's play with text placement. And in DALL-E, text is horrible, but it gets things flowing, and it's that design process, it's that iterative stance. And even in the branding part, yesterday with one of my teammates, we had to come up with a draft name for a project that we're coming up with, and we just kept telling, and Sarah, you may appreciate this, like you probably read Michael Bungay Stanyard's book, the Coaching Habits. you know, my pull from that book into this is, and what else, is the, you know, the all question of, and to keep asking, and what else, and what else, and what else. And then, but to your point, did it come up with the perfect headline? Absolutely not. We actually probably pulled from 5 different segments, distilled it, and then distilled it again in the conversations with the team. So, you know, it's an idea generator. And I tell my students all the time, it'll move the start line. It doesn't even get you to, it will never get you to the, well, currently it will not get you to the finish line.
So let me end with a comment. And what else? And what else is, you should think about what else you can do with AI. How does it augment the things that you're doing? It's not a replacement, but it's a way to make yourself more. And what else? Maybe you should look at the question, what else would happen if you actually worked with us and we can show you how to do this stuff better? And I really hope I see you guys in the future.
Yep.
Thank you for the time today.
Thank you very much.
And I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And see you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Cheers.